The loudest man in the room is the weakest. The one who watches, calculates, and stays silent, that's who they fear. Not all threats wear armor or roar loudly. Some move in silence, speak rarely, and let their presence do the damage. That's the Sigma male. He doesn't ask for attention, but he gets it. Not because he tries to be intimidating, but because the way he naturally exists makes people second-guess themselves. In this world of noise and performance, the Sigma is the quiet storm, steady, unshaken, and impossible to ignore. In this video, I'm going to break down 11 raw, real signs that a Sigma male is far more intimidating than he even realizes. These aren't the soft, surface-level points you've heard before. We're going underground, into what truly rattles people when they cross paths with a Sigma. So to my fellow ascenders, gear up. The world wasn't built for men like us, but it will learn to adjust. If you're about that life, hit subscribe. Stay on frequency. Let's ascend. 1. The void. Stare. There's a difference between looking and seeing. A Sigma male doesn't just glance, he scans. His eyes aren't there to impress or flirt. They're gathering data, reading cues, decoding motives. When he locks eyes with someone, it feels more like surveillance than small talk. People instinctively react to that kind of gaze. They look away, fidget, or overcompensate with nervous chatter. Why? Because a Sigma's stare bypasses the surface and dives straight into the psyche. It's not aggressive, it's not warm, it's surgical. And most people aren't used to being observed that way without judgment, just pure analytical attention. They feel like a puzzle being solved silently, which can be deeply unsettling for those used to superficial validation. What the Sigma doesn't realize is that his stillness speaks louder than most people's performances. His lack of emotional display isn't a lack of empathy, it's precision control. And when you combine that with an intense, undistracted stare, you create an atmosphere that demands seriousness without saying a word. People sense that they can't fake anything around you, that they either show up real or they don't show up at all. You're not trying to intimidate, but the honesty in your eyes is more than most can handle. 2. Zero neediness. Vibe neediness is a scent, and a Sigma male doesn't carry it. He walks into a room and instantly stands apart because there's no subtle reach for approval, no effort to fit in, no hunger for applause. He doesn't chase, and that, in itself, is power. Society is wired around mutual validation, likes, followers, compliments, all forms of currency. But a Sigma operates outside that economy. He doesn't fish for attention because he already knows his value. That unnerves people. It breaks the social algorithm. Most people don't know how to deal with someone who seems completely self-fueled. They mistake it for arrogance. It's not. It's sovereignty. When you don't seek permission to be who you are, you stop playing games others are addicted to. And that silence, that calm self-containment, it acts like a mirror. Insecure people see their own emotional hunger reflected in your restraint. It rattles them. They'll try to provoke a reaction, make you play along or test your ego, but you won't bite. That quiet confidence, that vibe that says, I'm good with or without this, is pure intimidation. Not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've removed yourself from the dependency loop, and most people can't imagine doing the same. 3. Mental lockpick energy. A Sigma male doesn't speak just to fill space. When he talks, it's deliberate. Every word carries weight. But where he truly intimidates is in how he listens. He's not just hearing you, he's decrypting, observing patterns, catching inconsistencies, tracking emotional logic. People pick up on that. They feel seen, but also cornered. Not physically, but intellectually. They realize they can't bluff, exaggerate, or manipulate the narrative around a Sigma. He's mentally agile and dangerously perceptive. His brain doesn't just absorb, It slices, processes, reconfigures. In conversations, he doesn't overpower with noise. He disarms with clarity. He might stay silent for most of the exchange, then drop one sentence that flips the whole dynamic. That's not luck. That's surgical communication. And it's intimidating because it creates imbalance. The other person feels overexposed. They start second-guessing what they're saying. They wonder how much the Sigma has already figured out. It's like playing poker with someone who doesn't blink and always seems to know your next move. You're not loud, you're not showy, but your mind. It's a weapon. And while others are playing for attention, you're analyzing the entire board. That's the kind of presence that makes people instinctively retreat, recalibrate, or watch their words. 4. Unbothered by hierarchies. Power structures in schools, offices, friend groups are built on unspoken hierarchies. Most people subconsciously play their roles. They bow to authority, seek favor from the popular, or play nice with those who can offer leverage. But not the Sigma. He walks through those structures like a ghost, not in rebellion, in indifference. Titles don't impress him. Status doesn't distract him. Influence doesn't seduce him. That kind of mental sovereignty is a direct threat to people whose identity is built on being above others. They don't know how to assert dominance over someone who simply refuses to play. It's not defiance, it's disengagement. A Sigma doesn't need to tear down the system, he just sidesteps it, and that rattles the people running the system. Your presence becomes a paradox. You're not trying to lead, yet people follow your vibe. You're not trying to compete, yet you win by doing your own thing. That quiet disregard for hierarchy is intimidating because it can't be bought, tricked, or coerced. You operate from inner authority, and that's the one kind of power that artificial titles can't touch. 5. Disruption by stillness. Noise is predictable. It signals, distracts, entertains. But stillness is disruptive. A Sigma male doesn't react the way people expect. In conflict, he doesn't lash out. In stress, he doesn't panic. In a loud room, he gets quieter. That composure, that refusal to crack, unsettles the environment. Why? Because it shifts the balance of emotional power. Most people are waiting for reactions to guide their behavior. But with a Sigma, the reaction never comes. Or when it does, it's surgical and deliberate. It's like standing in front of a volcano that refuses to erupt. The tension builds, but there's no release. And that unease spreads. People sense that you're not avoiding the fight. You're just calculating its worth. That alone creates fear. Not the fear of attack, but the fear of unpredictability. You're the storm that might hit. You're the chess player who won't move until the perfect strike. That kind of stillness is often mistaken for weakness, until it explodes, until the room shifts, until someone realizes you've been 3 steps ahead all along. The Sigma doesn't feed on chaos. He controls it, with silence, with patience, with terrifying self-discipline. That makes you dangerous, not because you bring the fire, but because you are the fuse. 6th master of the social exit. A Sigma doesn't cling. He doesn't explain himself, doesn't ask for closure, doesn't overstay his welcome. When the energy shifts, he leaves, quietly, instantly, like a shadow. That kind of detachment isn't just rare, it's jarring. People expect drama, explanations, some emotional residue, but a Sigma exits clean. No mess, no noise. One moment he's there, the next he's gone. That kind of disappearance messes with people. It challenges their ego. Why didn't he say goodbye? Did I do something wrong? Is he okay? The questions swirl, but the Sigma doesn't answer them. He's already moved on. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. He understands when a situation no longer serves growth, and instead of dragging it out, he moves, efficiently. Some mistake this for coldness, but it's precision. You don't waste energy explaining what doesn't need to be explained. You don't stay where you're tolerated. You only remain where there's value, respect, or purpose. That exit isn't just a retreat, it's a flex. It says, I don't owe you a performance. I'm not trapped by your expectations. And that self-control, that willingness to vanish without theatrics, it leaves a mark. Because people remember what they don't understand, and you, ascender, are built to be unforgettable. 7. The rogue compass morality isn't a script. It's a compass. And a Sigma male doesn't borrow his compass from the crowd. He builds it from experience, principles, and sharp internal logic. That makes him unpredictable in a world that thrives on tribal behavior. While others ask, what are we supposed to think? The Sigma asks, what makes sense? That independence can be misread. People might call you a loner, a contrarian, even a rebel. But really, you're just immune to groupthink. And that's dangerous to those who rely on herd mentality to feel secure. You don't flinch when you stand alone. You don't bend just to keep the peace. And that quiet resolve, that refusal to join the mob, can make people feel exposed. Your presence reminds them of all the times they compromised. You act from a place of inner law, not outer loyalty. You don't follow leaders just because they're loud. You follow truth, regardless of how it looks. And when someone moves like that, without allegiance, without fear, without dependency, the system sees it as a threat. Because you can't be recruited, you can't be bribed, you can't be predicted. You walk your own path, and that makes others question the one they're on. That's why you intimidate, not with aggression, but with integrity. 8. Emotional firewall. Vulnerability is a tool, not a liability. The Sigma knows that. He doesn't spill his emotions just to bond or earn sympathy. His emotional control isn't coldness, it's calibration. He doesn't repress, he chooses. Most people are emotional open books. Their faces, voices, and behaviors give them away. But the Sigma, he's a locked vault. You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's feeling. That mystery creates tension. People crave emotional signals to feel safe. But with a Sigma, the signal is silent. That forces them into discomfort. It's like trying to play a game without knowing the rules. Some will call him emotionally distant. Others will say he's hard to connect with. But what they're really saying is, I can't control him. Because when you master your emotions, you remove the strings others pull. You no longer react out of anger, panic, or guilt. You respond when it matters, and that unnerves manipulators. You're not ice, you're fire under glass, calm but capable of heat. You just don't show it on demand. You've built emotional discipline, and that's rare. Because in a world that rewards oversharing and overreacting, a man who governs his inner world becomes a fortress, and fortresses aren't easy to read or shake. 9. Quiet weaponry. There's a kind of power that doesn't shout, it whispers. Sigma males don't parade their skills, flex their wins, or advertise their grind. Instead, they deliver. Silently, efficiently, unexpectedly. And that's where the intimidation comes from. In a world obsessed with showing off, a man who doesn't show but simply executes becomes a mystery. People don't know what you're capable of, and that uncertainty breeds respect or fear. When your actions speak louder than most people's hype, you disrupt the social script. The crowd doesn't know how to rank you. Are you a threat? Are you elite? Are you hiding something? You leave them guessing. That's power. You don't need a spotlight because your moves make impact even in the dark. You're the guy who says nothing in the meeting, then drops one sentence that reframes the entire problem. The guy who trains in silence, then dominates when it counts. You don't seek validation because you don't perform for the crowd. You operate for the outcome. And that approach, execution over exhibition, cuts deeper than bravado ever could. Quiet confidence isn't just attractive. It's intimidating because people realize, if this is how you act without trying to impress, what happens when you do? 10. Eye for power plays. The The Sigma doesn't just move through the world, he reads it, instinctively, constantly. He can spot manipulation buried in flattery, control disguised as concern, ego wrapped in fake humility. He sees the chessboard while others are playing checkers. That perception is unsettling, especially to those who rely on subtle control tactics. They find their usual tricks ineffective, or worse, exposed. A Sigma isn't aggressive with his awareness. He doesn't call it out loudly, he simply sees and adjusts. He disengages, shifts, or sidesteps, and that non-response is brutal, because manipulators thrive on engagement. If they can't provoke you, they can't control you. The Sigma's refusal to react is like holding up a mirror to the manipulator's game without saying a word. That awareness creates distance. People sense they can't win with you, not because you're playing dirty, but because you're not playing at all. You operate from clarity, not chaos. And in a world full of people playing social chess, being the one who already sees the endgame is deeply unsettling. You don't just walk into rooms, you decode them. That's not just intelligence, that's dominance without lifting a finger. 11. The presence echo. Some people leave the room, and so does their impact, but not the Sigma. He could be gone for hours, days, weeks, yet his presence lingers. In the silence, in people's thoughts, in the way others recalibrate after speaking with him. That's the presence echo. You don't need to be loud, present, or involved to leave an imprint. You do it by how you move, how you speak, and how intensely you exist. When you speak, people listen, not because you demand it, but because your words carry the weight of someone who rarely speaks without purpose. When you act, it's deliberate, intentional, clean, and that leaves a mark. People replay your decisions in their minds. They wonder why you said that and not something else, why you left when you did, why you didn't react the way they expected. That mystery is part of your power. You become a reference point, a silent benchmark. People talk about you when you're not there, not out of obsession, but out of curiosity. They want to understand what makes you move the way you do, but the Sigma doesn't explain. He just moves on. And that lingering echo, that's not charisma. That's presence refined into legacy. Being intimidating isn't about dominance, it's about depth. When you carry yourself with clarity, silence, and self-mastery, the world reacts. It hesitates. It recalibrates. Because the Sigma doesn't just show up, he changes the air in the room. So, Ascenders, if you recognized yourself in these signs, know this. You don't need to change. You don't need to soften. You don't need to explain. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them misunderstand. That's not your burden. It's their mirror. Keep your steps light. Keep your mind sharp. And keep your presence undeniable. Subscribe. Stay silent. Stay sharp. And always ascend.